Hi friends, happy Sunday when you're seeing this. Today is going to be a really casual video because I tried to film a video yesterday and goofed it big time, so that I was going to say I have to refilm it, but I might not refilm it. I was going to do a physical TBR video, but then I filmed it and I had quite a few technical difficulties while I was filming, and then I realized I messed up and I left out a bunch of books because they weren't centrally located, and I actually ended up unhauling a whole paper grocery bag full of books in the process of making that video, which is great. So my physical TBR is officially under 100, which was my goal for 2023. So I'm feeling really great about that. And that's even with, I unhauled a bunch of books, and then I realized that my story graph wasn't entirely accurate. So I went through and took off the books that I was unhauling and added books that were on the shelf that I had either forgotten to add or just had missed. And even with adding some books on, I'm at 95. So yeah, that's awesome. Now the goal is to keep it under 100 because the long-term goal is to get my physical TBR down to 25 books, which will not happen this year. That is a goal for the end of 2024. But because that kind of failed, and I am reading a lot of books, but not necessarily going to be finishing anything anytime soon, I thought I'd just do update for what I'm currently reading and how it's going and what I think, because I said in my TBR video for August that I wanted to read less this month, and I think I am definitely going to succeed because I definitely bit off more than I could chew book-wise. But let's get into it. The first update is I did this morning DNF, one of my currently readings. I had gotten 81 pages into The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. And I really like his writing style. I am really interested in this world. I'm really intrigued by everything I have read so far. But this is a super chunk. And it's the only library book that I'm reading at the moment. And I'm reading a lot of things. So until I DNF'd this, I was reading 5 books. I haven't even touched my self-destructing TBR books yet. I DNF'd one. I DNF'd A Matter of Temptation, which is the historical romance, because I just found the writing so cheesy that I couldn't do it, which led to me unhauling pretty much all of my unread historical romance, which I have some feelings about. Finding historical romance cheesy hurts because that is my first love. I started reading historical romance when I was 14. I love it desperately, and it's been such a huge part of my reading life from a really young age, but I just couldn't do it. And having all these unread historical romances on my shelf were making me feel really sad, and I don't want to feel that way when I look at my shelves. So I just decided to get rid of them, and if it circles back around, which I hope it will, and someday I am obsessed with historical romance again, then I will be able to access these books from my library. I can repurchase them. I'm not worried about not being able to get access to these books later down the line if I change my mind. But it's kind of like hanging onto jeans that no longer fit. I would rather just get rid of them and buy clothes that make me feel good than hang on to something that I hope will feel good again in the future, if that makes sense. That's always the analogy I go to. I don't know if that's the right one, but that's what I go to. Anyways, DNFing Grace of Kings. I feel pretty good about it. I will come back to it eventually. It's just the priority this month is the books on my shelves, and Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick comes out at the time you're seeing this, it comes out the day after tomorrow, and that is a really highly anticipated read for me, so I know I'm going to want to read that. Also, T. Kingfisher's new book comes out the day after tomorrow, which I've also pre-ordered. I'm going to want to read that. I still have 4 more books on my self-destructing TBR that I need to read. So just, it felt, Grace of Kings was the only book where I felt like I had the room to DNF, if that makes sense. I was also the least invested out of the other 4. So anyways, I don't know why I'm explaining this so much. Damn. Okay, so then for what I am still currently reading, I am reading The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. And this one I am really liking. I am liking the world building. I'm loving the stuff about like the Aboras, which are like this, I don't know, almost superhuman race of people, and the history of the different wars that this world has had. I'm really interested in the witches, and I want more of Fel Noon. I find her arc really, really interesting, and I hope we get more of her. I'm not super invested in Tourmaline, who is one of the Aborans. Maybe that will grow. I do want more of his sister Hest. I think her situation is really interesting, though she hasn't been featured very much. Anyways, there's a lot going on in here. I really like the world building. I'm really intrigued to find out what's going to happen. I just got a physical copy because I was reading it on E, but I find reading chunky fantasy, is this chunky? Yeah, it's like 530 pages. That's no slouch. I find reading chunky fantasy on ebook is a struggle for me. I don't follow or focus as well. So I did just get a physical copy to keep reading that way. And then I read 2 chapters last night as opposed to like 1 chapter a sitting. So I'm hoping I can really like dive into this world and get more in depth because I'm really interested in what is going on. I'm also reading 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot. This is a YA ghost story about a boy named Charlie who lives in London, and Charlie has prosthetic legs. He lost his legs due to a case of meningitis, I believe. So he has prosthetic legs. He also has a wheelchair. I feel like the disability rep is really good. And he's also gay, which we haven't gotten into a whole lot yet. He isn't like out to, I think, anybody at the beginning of the book. So, but Charlie can see ghosts, and then, or certain ghosts start to go missing from around London. And so he goes to find out why. And where did I see it? Oh, Storygraph said this is horror. We shall see. I'm not getting horror vibes. It reminded me a lot of Cemetery Boys in certain places, not in a bad way. Like, it reminds me of Cemetery Boys in the things that I really loved in Cemetery Boys. And I followed Rosie Talbot on Instagram for a really long time. And I just find her videos absolutely delightful. And I am just, when I'm reading it in my head, I am reading it in her voice, and that just makes it even better. And then I very impulsively, Monday night, started an arc of The Siren, the Song, and the Spy by Maggie Tokuda-Hall. This is a follow-up / companion to The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea. We are following different characters, but it's like right after the events of that book, which if you haven't read that book, highly recommend. It's so good. So we're following a bunch of different POVs in this one, like 3 for sure, but then there's like 3 more that are being interspersed a little bit more sporadically than like the 3 what I would call main characters. So this comes out in September. Is there a date? September 26th. So I'm currently reading this, and again, I'm really interested in it. I remember The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea being a slower read for me. And, you know, I didn't feel compelled to keep turning the page, but this one, even though I haven't prioritized it very much, every time I pick it up, I read extra chapters because I want to know what's going to happen. I'm really interested in all of these people. And then my last currently reading is Emperor of Ruin by Django Wexler. This is book 3 in the Burning Blade yeah, Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy. And I had pre-ordered this. It came out in November. No, it came out in February. But Orbit just released the audiobook this past Tuesday. Which I don't know why publishers do that. I don't know who's to blame. If that's the publisher, if the audiobook company. I don't know how much control like publishers have over the audiobook production. Like if it's in-house, if it's separate. Like I just don't know how all of that works. But I have listened to the whole series on audio. Imogen Church does such a phenomenal job of narrating these books. And like, even though I really wanted to read this in February, I knew my experience was going to be so much better if I just continued to do it with the audiobook. And I'm so glad I waited because I started this on Tuesday. And today is Friday for me. And I'm already 200 pages into it, which may be like, that's real slow. But that's with all the other things I'm reading. Like, I have not exclusively been reading this, but I love it so much. Anyways, so this is definitely probably the one that is pulling my attention the most because I just love the audiobook. Though I did get the audiobook for Ninth Reign from Libro, so I'm hoping to have a little bit more speed with that one now that I have the audiobook, and also now that I've DNFed Grace of Kings. That will add, I think, more time into my schedule for reading. But like I said, I really did start to get a little frantic yesterday about the fact that I haven't really touched any of my self-destructing TBR books, and there's like 2 where I would be okay if I didn't get to them and had to unhaul them without having read them, but that leaves another 2. Like, I don't want to unhaul Young Mutants. I want to read it. And I don't want to unhaul Queen in Hiding. I want to read it. So, like, I had to do something. Because it's already the 11th of August. And I just know that these last 3 weeks are going to fly by. Also means we are so close to the start of school. And because of the way my job works, I don't have any classes to teach the first week of school. And that's still in August, so I'm really looking forward to getting some designated, solitary, uninterrupted reading time, because finding that during the summer has definitely been the most challenging. There's just no uninterrupted time unless I wake up at 5 a.m., which I do, but I'm also real tired. And just realized the other day that I think I have seasonal depression, and realizing that is or has been my issue for the last month and a half has made it that much harder to manufacture enthusiasm, which I do most of the time for my job, but it's definitely made it a lot harder. So if you are my friend in real life and I have been kind of a dud, I'm sorry, and that is why. But anyways, so that is the end of this video, a little short and sweet. Currently reading, I would love to hear what you are currently reading, and yeah, just how you're doing. How's your summer? If you have seasonal depression as well, and if you want to leave a comment but you don't have anything to say, let's do a mermaid emoji. And thank you so much for watching my video, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye.